Don't overcomplicate your holiday testing and experimentation strategy. Remember, the goal during the holidays, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, probably until the end of the year, is to maximize money coming in from all the sales that we are generating. Okay, another episode of CRO Live Hour. We are back.
Today we are talking about winning holiday experiments. Like, how do you come up with the different winning holiday experiments? I have about 3 questions that I'll ask you.
I'm ready, man. Just fire away.
Okay, cool. So the first question is, how do you determine which elements of an e-commerce website to prioritize for experimentation during the holiday season?
We cannot answer that question without talking about the strategy, the experimentation and A/B testing strategy, or the CRO strategy during the holidays. The strategy that I'm going to talk about, we've learned the hard way, probably in the last 10 or 11 years. That's when we start focusing on the holidays and what kind of testing we can do during the holidays. And I have to tell you, our first experiments that we've launched during the holidays, as I reflect back at them, we knew that we have to have offers, and we were testing kind of different offers. But at the same time, we said, well, since people are highly motivated, they're coming, they're looking for a deal, we wanted to test simple site functionality just to see which one worked better. And some of the stuff was sort of like, okay, like, hey, drop downs versus radio buttons. Like, hey, which one with somebody who's highly motivated, would that have an impact, testing that functionality? At some point we tried to test, hey, let's test branding plus discounts and offers versus just offers and discounts versus just branding itself, because we had one client who refused to do any discounts during the holidays. And they're like, hey, I don't care. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we don't give discounts. And over the years, I think what we've learned is that the strategy needs to be simple, if I may say. Don't overcomplicate your holiday testing and experimentation strategy. Remember, the goal during the holidays, during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, probably until the end of the year, is to maximize money coming in, the ROI that we're getting from all the sales that we are generating. I'm not necessarily trying to learn a lot about my customers. Maybe if I'm learning, I'm just trying to learn which offers work best for them. Having said that, that really dictates what kind of experimentation we're going to do during the holidays. So usually whenever we're sitting with a company that we work with, we say, okay, so what are the offers that we're going to be focused on this year? Some companies go overboard with the amount of offers. I'm like, okay, don't complicate it. Let's just stick with 2 to 3 different offers. We'll test them out, see which one works best. And for each one of those offers, we will create different creatives. In terms of testing, we always have a banner at the top of the site that just works very well all the time, especially during the holidays. You combine that with making sure also on the collection pages or the product pages for e-commerce that you mention the offer. We like to use scarcity and urgency as well, but they need to be authentic, so you're just not inventing, trying to trick people. And in the cart, we just repeat the offer again. We apply any discounts automatically. And we run those experiments. Usually our experiments launch midnight, 12 a.m. Eastern, that Thursday night. So we're constantly monitoring. And I must add that if the site has enough traffic, most of the companies we work with have the traffic and the conversions, we are using multi-arm bandit algorithm. For those who don't know what's multi-arm bandit, basically it's an algorithm that reallocates traffic between the different variations you have in A/B test based on which variation is generating more conversions. We run all of that testing usually until Monday morning. We look at our winners and we use those. Now we start with 3 campaigns. We usually take the winning campaign, and that's going to be our Cyber Monday. Then we continue running that probably Monday, Tuesday, sometimes until Wednesday. I'm not complicated the testing, correct? I am going to be testing my offers. I'm going to be testing something globally across the website. I am going to be testing few elements on the placements of my offers on the collection pages, the placement and the copy of my offers on the PDPs and on the cart page. Outside of that, don't test. Don't get really too fancy. People are highly motivated. Just tell them, here's what I have, and give them what they want. In the webinar that we've had with Adam, it was just really fascinating because Adam focuses on email marketing and the holidays. I mean, he's kind of like the first portion, correct? Like he drives that traffic to the website and we try and convert that traffic. There are some strategies that he mentioned that I found fascinating. And then of course I talked to Ayat and she's like, oh, doing this for a while. I'm like, okay, great. Sometimes I'm disconnected. Usually I have conversations with our team members regularly. Starting November, no one talks to me. Everybody's just heads down, working with their clients. They're just too busy to actually have a conversation. But one of the strategies is is, let's say you're working with a brand, so an email will come out from the CEO of that brand telling people that, hey, holidays are around the corner. We are going to be running offers. And then they give a calendar. So, hey, Friday, we're going to run this promotion on this category, and Saturday, this promotion on this category, and Sunday, this promotion on this category. So they're testing different promotions on different categories. And maybe in the last 3 to 4 hours, they might even increase the discounts that they're giving. I thought that was fascinating. That was interesting. And of course, it goes back to also the other piece that he said that I thought, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Kind of segmenting the email list and knowing what offers you make, at what time to which segment.
I just want us to dig a little deeper into your explanation. How many tests do you usually run within that period? Let's say maybe from Thursday night or from Thursday morning going into Black Friday. How many tests do you usually launch? I'm just asking this because maybe there might be someone who's listening to us who also have an e-commerce site and they don't really know what exactly to kind of test and how many tests to launch.
So let's start with the assumption to answer that question that you're going to launch a test on both mobile and desktop. So one test that's going to address traffic, and then your A/B testing software will allow you to segment the results between mobile and desktop. We're going to launch what we call a responsive test, just to simplify life. If you have traffic, you might actually run desktop separate than mobile. But, let's say it's one. So we will launch a test site-wide, correct? That's kind of in the header site-wide. I'll launch a test probably on my top landing pages and the homepage. That, becomes important. If the homepage doesn't get enough traffic, then I'll focus on the landing pages. If no, the homepage gets enough traffic, landing pages are different. So those might be 1 or 2 tests. So that's up to 3 tests until now. We will launch a test on the category pages, a test on the product pages, and a test in the cart and checkout. And usually the cart and checkout is kind of one test that we run. So up to 6 experiments if you're running on what we call a responsive test. So it's one test that's going to run for both mobile and desktop. If you say, no, my mobile is going to be different than my desktop, so I'm launching 6 experiments for mobile, 6 experiments for desktop. But of course, that starts with the assumption that you have enough traffic, enough conversions. Sometimes I like just to combine them just to make life easier. One responsive test for both devices. You just need to make sure that your A/B testing software allows you to segment your results based on the device, correct? And I have to do a shameless plug over here for FigPi because we provide that out of the box. You run a responsive test, we allow you to segment not only by device, but by the type of traffic that people are coming, specific campaign, and all that.
When you run A/B test on desktop and mobile devices, maybe at the same time, doesn't that mean more development and QA work for your team, given that you have to be moving fast during that Black Friday period?
Yeah, so this is interesting because this is always a discussion with our dev team. Ultimately, I think it's about the same amount of time. If you're going to do separate mobile, desktop, unless you're going for a completely different experience, usually the first platform that you're going to program the A/B test for will take you the longest. So that platform, let's say you have an experiment and it's going to take 8 hours. Let's say you're developing the test first on mobile. When you go to develop the test for desktop, you've already have most of the code. You need to make a few changes, so it might take a couple of hours. So in total, you've done 10 hours. Now, if you're going to do responsive, it is probably going to be close to 10 hours. So it's about the same, by the way, whether you're doing responsive or you're doing combination. Sometimes actually doing it as responsive cuts down on the time by 10 to 20%, which is fascinating. It's not exactly equal. You're not launching 2 tests, you're launching 1 test, and the time is not the combination of both. It's about 20% less. But remember, we're talking about not too complicated experiments. We're talking about banners, we're talking about special offers. I don't anticipate that development time for any of those experiments will be long. Most of these experiments are what we call low effort experiments. Low effort experiments are experiments that take less than 4 hours to develop. That's what I want. Whenever we have an experiment, we classify it as low, medium, high effort. It's important for us because that really helps us understand how long it's going to take to implement this experiment. Low effort experiment is less than 4 hours. A medium effort experiment is anywhere between 4 to 8 hours. And high effort experiments is more than probably 8 hours. Sometimes it's usually around 16 to 24 hours. If I see that there is medium or high level of effort experiments in my Black Friday, I'm stopping. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Why do we have high effort experiments or medium even? Because our experiments should be fairly straightforward. We're not trying to learn a whole lot about our customers. We're trying to maximize our revenue during the holiday season.
That's a good point. But some of the web elements that help increase conversions, right, on desktop may actually affect conversions on mobile devices, right? Maybe what I'm trying to say is that like what works on desktop might not necessarily work on mobile. So if you launch same tests on both devices at the same time, don't you think that might end up like kind of like maybe affecting one device than the other?
I agree with the fundamental premise that the visitor who comes to your website on mobile is in a different mindset than visitors who come to your site on desktop. I completely agree with that. I mean, I think that's a correct assumption. I think we see that all the time in our testing. And that's the reason whenever even we launch a single test for mobile and desktop, we have to segment just to really understand how mobile visitors are behaving compared to desktop visitors. But there's always a but, correct? Holidays are a little bit different because we're focused on offers. The visitors are also coming and they're highly motivated and they're searching for discounts. Let's be very frank and honest about it. So it's all about how do I show them the best offer in the best way on mobile and desktop. So while people are a little bit different throughout the year, I think in the holidays is a little bit less, especially if we're just focused on offer testing. So that is something that we want to keep in mind. Now, you launch mobile versus desktop and offer 1 wins on mobile and offer 2 wins on desktop. What do we do in that case? That's a question. Or even in responsive, you launch a responsive, but then you're segmenting the data and you see the same thing. Offer 1 wins on mobile and offer 2 wins on desktop. What do we do? Holidays are very special because we're trying to maximize our revenue. So I would actually say, you know what, for mobile, this is the offer that we'll have. For desktop, this is the offer that we have. This is because we have very limited time. So we create this, what I call a split in the path for mobile, for desktop, because really the data is showing us that they are different. Outside of the holidays, it's a completely different discussion because outside of the holidays, you're not testing offers, correct? You might be testing functionality, messaging. I mean, you mention it. And the minute you see that mobile versus desktop are a little bit different, you actually have to stop and say, how many visitors are getting to us on mobile? How many visitors are getting into our site on desktop? We usually like to go with one message, even if we end up saying, you know what, this version is really winning on desktop, but really desktop doesn't matter to me. Most of my visitors are coming on mobile. I am going to go with the mobile version. And that's going to be even the default on desktop. Why do we do that? Because splitting the code base into here's mobile, here's desktop, I mean, sounds great for marketers, but maintaining that is not so easy for developers. And remember, we talked about one test, correct? So, oh, here's the experience for mobile, here's the experience for desktop. 300 experiments later, I mean, maintaining the website could be horrendous. It's just asking for trouble. Unless fundamentally the website is architected to handle those two different experiences. Again, as you noticed, but unless caveat. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into that.
Yeah, I agree like with your explanation, and it also like makes a lot of sense. I'm also thinking that like some of the people, right, they might visit the website using their mobile phones and then maybe they purchase on their desktop. But what if like they did that, like they took like that same path and they kind of see like the offers are different from what they saw on on the mobile device and what they saw like on the desktop device. I'm just kind of like thinking it might be far-fetched, but
typically we say it is what it is. Offer here, offer there. It is what it is. Just the amount of effort that takes, because it's a completely different visitor. And like, you know, I mean, it is the same visitor, but for the A/B testing software, it's a completely different visitor. Unless you have very intelligent A/B testing software that says, oh, you came from here. I can look at your signature. I can compare it. I can like, you know, match it. And this is a lot easier if you have what we call logged in user. So I'm like, oh, it's the same user ID. Now I showed you this offer on mobile. Now you're logging in, coming back to the website. I'm going to show you the same offer. Not everybody is logged in devices. That's number one. This becomes a much bigger problem, by the way, the mobile versus desktop, different offers or different experiments, variations. When you're testing pricing, oh, this item on mobile is for $80. On desktop is for $100.
Moving on to the next question. Are there any key metrics that e-commerce businesses should track specifically during holiday experiments? And how do they tie into the long-term success?
So I've read multiple times where people argued that you want to look at conversion rates or you want to look at revenue per visit. I think, by the way, in GA4 now, they have a different fancy name. I don't even remember. It's for revenue per visitor. And initially when I saw it, I'm like, what is that? And then I look at the formula. I'm like, dude, why would you change the name of the metric that we've used for the last 15 years? It makes no sense to me. The same thing, by the way, when they like, you know, now they removed bounce rates and they replaced it with engagement rate. I'm like, really? I mean, why? You know, but again, I guess they, you know, it's their product, so they get to do stuff like that. But I digress. Some people like to look at RPV. Some people like to look at conversion rate. I actually look at something else, profitability. And that's a very, very honest and open conversation with every client, every company that we work with. You have to have a full strategy when it comes to the holidays. You might be losing a little bit, correct? Because you have lost leaders. So you want to bring people in. I know that if somebody places an order with me, they will place another order within 30 days or 25 days. So you need to understand how frequently your people are ordering from you. So yeah, I might be losing money on the first order, but I know that's on average, somebody will place an order with me within 45 days. Within a year, maybe they'll place 6 orders. You have to have enough data set to do that analysis before you run a specific offer or discount. For me and for my team as a CRO, like, hey, the higher the discount, the easier it is for us to increase conversion rates. But that is a stupid business strategy. I always tell every company we work with, I can increase your conversion rates 100%. Offer your products for free, everybody's going to buy, we're done. Stupid. We don't want to do that. We want to think about profitability, lifetime value of a customer, the frequency and the recency of our customers and how often they place an order. That is the framework that we need to look at. Yeah, I am tracking all the other metrics, but I think the work of a conversion rate optimization specialist is a bit more complicated to pull the data from analytics to look at the recency, frequency, lifetime value of a customer to say, okay, here's the data that we have. Here's the offers that make sense. Even in instances where we talk about, okay, we're going to offer free shipping. This is an experiment that we launched a while back. I don't know if I would test it again, but what is the threshold that would offer the free shipping? I want to think about that, but that requires you to dig through the data. You want to look at your abandonment rate, because if somebody had clicked and added an item to the cart, they're highly motivated. Okay. But then they abandon. What is that abandonment rate based on average order value? My abandonment rate is 50%. Okay, no, you think it's 50%. Let's look at the cart value and let's look at the abandonment rate. What is the abandonment rate when the cart value is around $40, $45, $50, $55, $60? Correct? You might find out that the abandonment rate at $40 is only 10%, and that the abandonment rate at $90, it's actually maybe 80%. So, okay, so kind of thinking about that, then saying like, you know what, listen, maybe if we offer free shipping at higher level orders, then I'm going to reduce that abandonment rate from 80% maybe to 60%. So again, there's a lot of data and lots of insights that you can pull from just saying, oh, a generic number to kind of digging through it and doing that analysis and then basing like, you know, kind of your business decision using those metrics.
That makes sense. Could you discuss the role of user feedback and customer behavior analysis in shaping the design of holiday experiments?
That's going to sound a little horrible. I don't know if user feedback plays a huge role in the holidays and kind of in the big scheme of things, correct? Because again, users are highly motivated during the holidays. I start with that premise. They're coming because they are looking for an offer. Now, user feedback matters to me a lot and figuring out which offers work best. And this works more for established brands. Look at the messaging. Look at the offers that worked really well last year and the year before. Sometimes, most of the time, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's look at the creatives that worked really well. Let's look at the offers that worked really well. Let's look at the offers that lost as well. Maybe we want to test with one of them and we want to avoid the rest. So that's feedback that you're getting through the data is what mattered to me during the holidays. Actual customer feedback. I don't know how much you will do of that. Now, I might stand corrected, by the way. Somebody might say, we do quite a bit of user feedback during the holidays. I would be interested. I mean, if one of our listeners says, actually, you need to consider this angle, I'm like, okay, that's something that I'll be interested in learning. What do you think, Simba? Do you think user behavior and user feedback matters during the holidays?
I think like when it comes to direct feedback from customers, I think they can highlight maybe their preferences, their pain points, and expectations during the holiday season. Like you can reach out to them maybe when you do like those kind of customer interviews, jobs to be done customer interviews, and when you hear like much more about their preferences, pain points and expectations, then that's how you can take that feedback and also kind of like try to inject it in your holiday season offers. I guess like maybe that's also something that you can do.
Yeah, that's the challenge that I see with this, because I should be doing that all the time. I don't know if there's any special for the holidays that I'm like, okay, yeah, this is particular to the holidays. I think you'll do that throughout. And I think, by the way, the other thing, it depends, I guess, on how large the organization is. The holidays always a mad rush. I don't think many people are about user feedback, but it will be interesting if we learn something different.
Those are the questions that I had for you, unless maybe you want to add something.
I want to ask our listeners, wherever you listen to this podcast, leave us a review. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, happy testing.